What should be mud is dust. It flakes away like the skin of a corpse, leaving my hands dry and ashen. I stand on the ridge of the irrigation canal, a great work we had spent the winter digging, and look down. There is no life there, only a thin, stagnant ribbon of green scum that the flies claim as their kingdom. By this time last year, the hoppy should have roared. The water should have been brown, swirling God, heavy with the black silt that feeds us, spilling over the banks and promising bread for the winter. But the river is silent. Behind me, the village is too quiet. Usually there's a sound of splashing, of children laughing, of the rhythmic thump thump of grain pestles. Now there's only the rattling of the wind through dead papyrus. My youngest sits in the shade of our doorway, his belly beginning to swell with the hunger sickness, his eyes tracking a beetle in the dirt. He doesn't even have the energy to catch it. The priests in the temple precinct still chant. I hear their voices drifting on the heat haze, calling to Osiris, begging for inundation. They say the pharaoh is a god. He maintains the ma'at, the balance of the world. But if she is a god, why are the banks cracked like broken pottery? If she is a god, why does the sun feel like a predator? The horizon is shimmering, but it is the blue of the Nile itself. It is the yellow of the great sand sea, creeping closer every day. The desert is hungry, and this year, I think it intends to eat us all. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Courtney. Welcome to the Time Travelers Club. Last time we discussed Cleopatra's first priority upon returning to Egypt was to remove any internal threat to her authority. Officially, she ruled jointly with her younger brother and husband, Ptolemy the 14th, a boy still in his early teens. In practice, he represented a liability, one around whom dissidents, Roman opportunists, or palace factions could rally. Within months of her return, her little brother, Ptolemy, politely decided to die suddenly. How nice of him.
That was so nice of
It
him.
was so sweet.
Considerate.
So considerate. Ancient sources are cautious, but unmistakable in their implications. Cleopatra almost certainly ordered his poisoning. The act was ruthless, but calculated. In a kingdom that had devoured its own rulers for generations, hesitation was fatal. We also talked about how she immediately elevated Caesarion, only 4 years old, to the throne as her co-ruler, officially naming him Ptolemy the 15th. This was not symbolic motherhood. It was geopolitical strategy. By proclaiming Caesarion as king, Cleopatra anchored her legitimacy not only in Ptolemaic tradition, but in the legacy of Julius Caesar himself. Egypt now ruled in the name of Rome's greatest general's son, a living challenge to anyone who claimed to inherit Caesar's power.
I mean, no pressure, kid. Here at the Time Travelers Club, we believe babies don't need jobs, Cleo. Babies don't
But
need jobs.
they don't.
Also, God King. Like, no pressure.
No pressure.
Also,
You're 4.
we gave him
You're a
the
god king
name-
now.
Also, we gave him the cursed name of Ptolemy. Christ. Like,
I really
I'm sure
wish
it'll
that
end
they would be
well for
original.
him.
Totally.
I'm sure it'll end well for him.
But in any case, for the next 2 years, Cleopatra governed Egypt directly. She stabilized administration, oversaw taxation and trade, and ensured that Egypt remained the Mediterranean's primary grain exporter. But while the Nile still flowed, the world beyond Egypt's borders was collapsing into civil war.
So, meanwhile, By 43 BCE, the Roman Republic had split into two hostile camps by this point. On one side stood the assassins of Caesar, Brutus and Cassius, known as the Liberators, and then on the other side stood the Second Triumvirate, featuring the dream team of our favorite jock and frat bro, Mark Antony, super uptight dweeb of the stars, Octavian, and some third wheel called Lepidus. He was just happy to be there. This poor Lepidus.
Poor Lepidus. He seems like such a golden retriever. Come on.
Yeah. It's like, hey, thanks for doing all of the administration and legwork. Like, it's crazy because he's like the most balanced of them. He's not like problematic, at least not as problematic. I'm sure he's Roman. I'm sure he's problematic, but like,
oh, definitely,
he ain't doing the shit they're doing. And yet, it's like, yeah, okay, here's some of Africa, I guess, and he's like, thanks, guys. Like, he doesn't even put up a fight.
He's just happy to be there.
But anyway, this unlikely trio were united by vengeance and ambition. I mean, or at least Lepidus's case, he was just happy to help. So, because I don't think he's really, he doesn't seem like the type. But unfortunately, for Cleopatra, neutrality was not an option if she had been hoping for it. Egypt's wealth made it central to the war. Whether she wished it or not, gold financed the armies and grain fed them. And normally, Egypt was stupid with access of both. Whoever controlled Egypt could starve Italy or bankroll its legions.
Something that I'm sure made all those old men nervous.
Mm-hmm. And there's this crazy lady making these decisions with her moon blood.
Those with titties can't make decisions.
Well, like, they're just so distracting. How does she get anything done? I just have this image of Cleopatra trying to do her work, and like, this is like the Romans, like what they're thinking. And she's writing, all of a sudden she looks down at her own boobs. She goes, "Whoa!" And she's like, with her hands, like, squeeze, squeeze.
Oh, all day, every day. Sorry.
She just starts like gyrating them. She got nipple tassies on. This is the Romans and what they think for sure.
Oh,
for sure.
They're like,
this is how they're like, that's how Julius Caesar fell for her. She was just with her titties gyrating with their tassies.
Just so much booby. Who knows?
And then it was distracting him from her face. Anyway, because
or worse. She showed some shoulder. What a whore.
Oh, girl, for real, she showed titty because that was the way their dresses rolled.
Oh, absolutely.
But, like,
1,000%.
No, like, they were sheer, like, over in Egypt, for sure. It's hot. Who cares? But, like, it's, like, you know, you could thank the Romans for sexualizing the Greeks to a degree, but you can thank them for sexualizing it. But, like, it's hot. I don't know if you know this about Egypt. It's hot. You know, and so, like, they're like, okay, not full titty out, but, like, they absolutely were sheer. We talked about all that.
Oh, yeah.
But full show, they were super nervous. Because back to the also equally sexy topic of administration and grain dolage,
Ooh.
and financing.
Ooh, hot and bothered over here. Woo!
That's what gets the Romans hard, for sure. As we will see. So, of the liberators, Gaius Cassius Longinus and his Longina posed the most immediate threat, while Brutus was the philosophical and cautious one. Cassius, on the other hand, was cold, efficient, and utterly pragmatic, a real Roman.
Totally.
He understood the wars were won not by ideals, but but by logistics. And Egypt possessed both gold and bread in unparalleled quantities. Cassius treated Egypt not as a sovereign ally, because that's silly. I mean, come on.
Never.
Come on. They're Egyptians, first of all, and they have a lady.
Mm-hmm.
Am I right? But he did appreciate them as a treasury just waiting to be opened. Like, just open your legs, girl. Open the vaults, I mean.
Jesus.
Why are you resisting God? Just come on. You know you
you
want
want
it.
it.
You
Saw that
really
one.
don't.
No,
You really
the
don't.
fuck you don't.
Maybe he should try what we did and just abduct her.
Oh
You know,
God.
just take her and claim it for himself. With
Yeah, because
no
that's.
immediate plans to have the people decide a new leader or anything.
Oh yeah.
Anyway,
Because stability be damned, but
just throw her in a sweatsuit, and a blindfold, and just give her a water bottle. She'll be fine.
She'll
It's fine, and then have a trial in your own country, not theirs. Anyway, it sounds very Roman. Honestly, I could believe they would.
It's
That's honestly what they
seriously, it
tried
is.
doing. That's kind of what they tried doing.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
But Cleo's got other plans when that does come around. So, but back to where we're at. In 43 BCE, Cassius began to systematically strip the eastern Mediterranean of its wealth. Cities were fined into ruin. Tarsus, important later, was ordered to pay 1,500 talents of silver. Guys, this is literal tons. Like,
Mm-hmm.
stupid amount of money. I think like 200 talents is like 4,500 or 4,500 like tons, and that was like 250.
Jesus Christ.
Like, we're talking about like a literal mountain of like just a city. This isn't like New York City. Like, it's like, like, I'm sure it was a big city, but even if everyone in that town was stupid rich, which they weren't, but imagine if everyone was, who's got that? So when it failed, as they knew it would, it says, since we're sold into slavery, yay!
Why does this feel so relevant? I hate that this feels incredibly relevant.
Well, at least we're not being literally sold into slavery. Just, forced to work. It's more systematic than that. Anyway, at least we're not literally sold and stripped of all of our human rights as of right now.
As of yet.
As of yet. Judea, Syria, and Asia Minor were also bled dry. And Egypt was next. The audacity, though. Because Egypt don't owe them nothing.
No.
So, mind you, at this time, all these areas, they're not provinces. They are kingdoms. Okay. Like, Tarsus tentatively is, because, like, they owned they had taken over a lot of, like, Asia Minor at that, like, point. But Judea has its own king, the one that was killing all the babies, apparently, in the Bible, and that's why Jesus had to be hidden. That one.
Yes.
And then you've got that guy. You got Syria, who will famously have her own queen, who throws up a middle finger to Rome much later.
We'll cover her at a later time.
Yeah. But, like, that being said, all these people are their client kingdoms, right? So it's the idea that, yes, it's almost like you pay a certain amount to these, like to an empire, right?
Mm-hmm.
To leave you the hell alone, sort of.
So it's mob protection. It only
It's
goes
kind of
so
like,
far as you keep them happy.
I'd almost say we have the same thing here in the United States with all the banana republics down in South America and Central America, where
Exactly.
like it's like a client, like, we put these people in power or whatever, or like threaten them a bunch, and it's like, hey, we can be friends here. We've got stuff we know you want, but you really don't want to be bothered with like running the shit. So how about this? You just leave us put like us individually, not the country, but leave individually me, the king or queen, alone and in power. And in return, we will be your allies, and it's not like we really have a choice in this, but the other option is that you just try to take us over and completely strip us of our culture.
Mm-hmm.
And the Romans were usually all too happy. And now one could argue Egypt was kind of like this at this point, but they were a lot more reliant on Egypt. Most of these other client kingdoms, I mean, it was just to humor them. And like, they are pretty far out there and we don't want to be bothered with it. But like we had discussed with Egypt, they were the breadbasket of this entire world.
Yeah.
And they had wanted Egypt, just straight up take it. But because it was so lucrative, so powerful, it was like they and their Republican ideals, they didn't want anyone, even a governor, to have that much power, right? Because that could completely topple the republic. If that governor decided, fuck it, I'm just going to turn off the grain until I get what I want, now what? They don't trust anybody that much to run it. So they were more content with just letting Egypt be for now.
Oh, of course.
So essentially, if you get rid of the republic, then they'll take Egypt. But,
Mm-hmm.
So Cassius's envoys were sent to Alexandria, demanding immediate shipments of golden grain. As you do. Coming in hot.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't, it's like the equivalent of like you're on like a dating app and like the first thing they send you is a picture of their dick.
Or
right?
Or the experience
Not even
I've
a
had
hi, how are
lately.
you?
The experience I've had lately is just, you got really big tits. And I'm just like, Jesus fucking Christ. That's what you
Not
lead
even
with?
a hi, how are you? Like,
that's
would you, like,
you lead with?
Right. Like, God. Like, not even, I don't, like, even if you're on there just for hookups, like, Jesus, not even a hi, how are you? Like,
yeah, no.
Not even I think you're really cute or hot or whatever. Like, it's just straight up, show me them tits. Anyway, and this is what he's like, show me that grain, girl. I'm not interested in the titties like Julius.
You know what? I need that on a shirt. Show me that grain, girl. Just like
Bitches love golden grain.
bitches love golden grain.
Focus. Yeah, focus. So the message was blunt, obviously. Fund the Liberators' War, or Egypt will become a battlefield. But Cleopatra stalled. I think she called them on their bluff. Like, bitch, you're in the Civil War. What you gonna do?
What are you gonna do? What power do you actually have?
But she also kind of had a good reason, supposedly. She cited famine. Okay. That seems like a good reason. We're going to get into it. And she cited plague. Because usually they go hand in hand. If you're not eating proper nutrition, you're more susceptible to disease, right?
Absolutely.
So she delayed, deflected, and avoided commitment. Typical broad.
Damn, because we're such commitment phobes.
Right. I think that's anyway. So, knowing that to openly side with Caesar's assassins would doom her if they lost. Also, I mean, come on. They murdered her baby daddy.
They did.
I don't know. If I were her, I'd be big mad at both of these fuckers. Be like, first of all, you fuckers killed the baby daddy, and then you fuckers took all the legitimacy and everything I'd worked for fucking 3 years on my kid. What the fuck?
Yeah.
You You fucked me over in court. You fucked me over by killing him in the first place. Fuck both y'all. But alas, she will have to decide at some point, right?
Mm-hmm.
But not today. Um, so Cassius, this is going to really surprise you, as a Roman man, quickly lost patience.
Did he have any
You
to
know,
begin with?
like he asked for the titty pics. You were like,
Send
I
nudes.
mean, like you were like, hi, how are you? I don't know you that well. I'd like to get to know you first before I just send something like that. And he, in response, said, Jesus Christ, just send some nudes, you prude. Fucking slut. Anyway, so that's where the Romans are going with it. That's what they would
God.
call her.
Wow. I feel like the evolution of men has not
Right. Is she giving it up for any
evolved.
Roman guy, or is she always holding back? Which is it?
I don't know. I don't know.
By late 43 BC, he had began massing troops in Syria within striking distance of Egypt. His goal was unmistakable. If he seized Alexandria, he would gain Egypt's fleet, its treasury, and control the Mediterranean grain supply. Antony and Octavian would starve, and Cleopatra's dynasty came within days of annihilation. But, like, also, is that smart for him to split up his stuff? We'll never know. Because Egypt was not saved by diplomacy, but timing. Just as Cassius prepared to march south, Brutus sent urgent orders from the Balkans demanding that their armies unite to face the triumvirs in Greece. Cassius turned away from the Nile and marched towards Philippi. Cleopatra survived by a matter of weeks. Had Cassius won that war, Egypt would almost certainly have ceased to exist as a client kingdom. Cassius despised monarchs, particularly Eastern queens, because ew, titties. And to him, Cleopatra was a tyrant, and Caesarion a living threat to the Republic. So he gonna kill her baby. It's bad news, guys. So it was a narrow escape, though, because if that order had come in just a little later, maybe I personally don't know if I buy it, but that's what the historians say. Like, maybe, he would have went down there. I mean, it does show you kind of how tentative all of this is, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, she's doing a good job, but like, they're not a military power anymore.
No.
Egypt hasn't been in almost like 1,000 years, and it's one of those things that they are so wealthy and doing so well. And all it's going to take is some brutal warlord with like some competency to end it all.
Mm-hmm. But as we have unfortunately seen before, Cleopatra's vulnerability in 43 BCE was not new.
Yup, she been given the shaft again. And it's not even the good kind. God.
Oh, poor thing. It was the consequence of an older disaster that still haunted Egypt, the Gabiniani. These were Roman soldiers left behind in Egypt in 55 BCE by Aulus Gabinus to protect Cleopatra's father. Over time, they married locally, adopted Alexandrian customs, and ceased to obey Rome. They became mercenaries, loyal only to whoever preserved their privileges. The crisis ignited in 50 BCE when the Roman governor of Syria, Bibulus, sent his sons to Egypt to recruit these troops for the Parthian War. The Gabiniani refused and murdered both men. Cleopatra responded decisively, arresting the killers and sending them in chains to Bibulus. The decision was politically rational and personally disastrous. The Gabiniani turned against her and threw their support behind her brother, Ptolemy XIII. During the Alexandrian War, they nearly defeated Julius Caesar himself. One of their officers, Lucius Septimus, was the man who stabbed Pompey to death on the Egyptian shore. Yeah, remember that? Remember the guy who just shanked the living mother loving out of that guy and just chopped off his head for a teenager? That was wild. And it's even more wild that somehow he's still around, let alone employed.
Yeah, I feel like if I had gotten to fly under the radar with that one, I'd just retire or something. Like,
Yeah, I think the choices that we make.
or whatever.
Yeah. After Caesar's victory in 47 BCE, he disbanded the Gabiniani and replaced them with loyal Roman legions. Again, because Roman men ain't shit. But in 43 BCE, history repeated itself. When the Roman commander Aulus Alinus marched those legions north to fight Cassius, he was intercepted and surrendered
Or like,
them without resistance.
I was just thinking more like Alice Alanus. Anus, get it? Because they're all assholes.
They are all assholes. Without resistance. So apparently he's been wide open for a while.
So you got Cassius, Alanus.
These, just men.
These
Jesus
Longinus.
Longinus. I mean, technically, the ass crack is longer than. I'm sorry, that was a tangent. Okay, so
We don't feel bad about making fun of these people. We don't.
No, we don't. We don't. They deserve it.
I feel more bad that I put Cleopatra with titty tassels earlier than I do about these guys. Okay.
You see, though, I think Cleopatra would get it, though. Realistically, I think
I
she
like
would
to hope-
sit there and be like, "Oh, yeah, girl, yes."
I like to think that, but also she's like the Bezos of this time, so who knows? I don't know.
Who knows?
she's stupid
Who
rich,
knows?
but like I think like if we were friends with her, she was a party girl, so she'd probably be like, "Yes, let's do that."
By the middle of 43 BCE, however, Cleopatra faced a brutal realization. Egypt was not being conquered. It was being dismantled from within. She had not lost a war. She had not issued the wrong order. Instead, two men charged with defending her kingdom made decisions that prioritized their own survival over her crown. The result was catastrophic. Cleopatra was stripped of her military sovereignty without a single Roman banner ever crossing the Nile. From the outside, it looked worse than weakness. It looked like betrayal.
And I mean, it was also what you expect, girl. These are Roman men, right?
Yeah.
And you, as a not Roman vagina, sent them to go fight the Roman one at this time, at least one of the most Romanist of Roman men.
Yeah.
I mean,
Frustrating.
yeah. I don't know if it was going to go any other way. I guess for her, I'm glad they got it out of their system, and versus like say Cassie had shown up and then they defected.
Agreed.
You'd rather have them
worse.
defect over there.
That would have been worse.
But because they weren't really. Oh, they're there to protect you. No, they're there to watch you. So, as we said at the top of this whole series, back what felt like 100 episodes ago, Cyprus, remember them, was not a peripheral holding. It was the beating heart of Ptolemaic naval power, though.
Mm-hmm.
The islands supply timber for shipbuilding, crews for the fleet, and strategic control of the Eastern Mediterranean. Because just wild that this land-based desert people weren't known as a naval power on their own.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's crazy. I know. But Cyprus as an island kingdom was. So whoever controlled Cyprus controlled Egypt's ability to project force beyond its shores. And it was always a damn problem. So, remember, this was the same Cyprus that got Cleo's dad kicked out all those years ago, right? When they had that little uprising, and then he couldn't really do shit about it. So then, like, the people got big mad. Remember that?
Yep.
So, the governor of Cyprus at this time, it's Strategos, was a man named Serapion, as in Serapis, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So you can tell he's still Egyptian Greek. When Cassius moved into Syria, which was just a stone's throw away, and began demanding resources from them, Serapion did not consult Alexandria. He did not wait for royal instructions. He made his choice alone. He handed over the entire Cypriot fleet to Cassius.
Jesus Christ. These men aren't loyal.
Well, the verdict is out whether this is just because he didn't like Homegirl or because he was an ancient man and just thought he didn't need to run these decisions by her because, you know, vagina. Everyone knows, and, you know, I don't know. It's like rock, paper, scissor, but dick beats vagina, I guess. I don't know. Personally, I think it's more like paper covers. I mean, personally, I think it's more like paper covers rock, but what do I know?
Yeah.
But whatever. Like, she would just go with it or something, because dick. But either way, with that single act, Cleopatra lost her navy. So she got no real army now.
None.
And her navy gone, girl. Like, things aren't looking good.
Poor Cleo. Like, this is bullshit on bullshit on bullshit on bullshit. These men ain't loyal.
Ugh. The fact that she even gets as far as she does with this bullshit going on, you know, and it's like we've seen she's a good administrator. She's good at what she does, you know. Mm-hmm. It's just like if she had been a dude, it would have been so much easier. I promise you half of this wouldn't be a problem.
Exactly.
Because they make these decisions like, well, I'd rather have a guy in charge. Like, she's a woman and she's a queen, and then like that's somehow less than a king. And you're like, at best, at worst, it's like it's even worse than a republic. I don't know. Anyway, Cassius, though, of course, was thrilled. Because as all men are, like when women don't put out and they get what they want anyway.
Yeah, indeed.
So he immediately put the ships to use, deploying them against the Caesarian general Dolabella, the same one that Marky Boy tried to a few years ago. But hey, wild that they work together now. They're co-workers now.
Enemies to lovers arc? Is that what this is?
I don't think so. I still think they hate each other. It's just for a minute they're getting. For a minute they agree, but that would be. So, bye, Cleo. I got Dolabella. He calls him Doll. Anyway.
No! Oh, God.
His Bella. Anyway. Oh, no. Bella. I'm a vampire, Bella.
Now all I can see is this stupid little poster where he's got a tampon in his mouth.
Oh. I'm just thinking, like, if you really look at Mark Yancey's, like, statues and, like, I think Edward, he could play Edward Cullen. I think he could do it. He'd be shiny. He's smart. Throw some glitter on the statues. It's pretty much the same thing. Anyway, so, but all that, apparently it didn't matter because the outcome was decisive. Dolabella was crushed. And from the perspective of Rome, who were also, to be fair, this was actually really smart of Cassius because Rome was also not really a naval power, right? Like they dabbled, but that wasn't their strong suit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like them having this navy also was very helpful to them. So Dolabella was crushed, and from the perspective of Rome, the conclusion was unavoidable. Cleopatra herself had just financed the men who murdered Julius Caesar. So they're blaming her. They're like, oh, girl, why'd you give them the Navy?
Why did you give them? Why did they take it?
Right. And she's like, I didn't do shit. I didn't do shit.
Oh.
And now, was this Serapion's intent or not? Who knows? I don't want to give him that much credit, personally. I'm like, I think that he was just a dude. He made his own decisions. He wasn't even thinking that far ahead. He wasn't like, ooh, this will hurt Cleopatra. And blah, 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 blah. No, it was just as simple as like, ew, girls. And then this was just a bonus. But the damage was done either way. So ancient historians have long suspected that Serapion was playing a deeper game. Remember, y'all, Cleopatra's younger sister, Arsinoe the Fourth. Remember her? The 14-year-old. Yep. The 13-year-old who back during the siege was like, this shit.
Yep.
That one? Well, she's still alive. And she, kicking it in Ephesus, which is right near a stone's throw from all these guys. Yep.
Civil wars on civil wars on civil wars.
And Cleo might be right. Maybe they should have killed this 13-year-old girl. I hate to say that. Oh, that's gross, but whatever. Yeah, because I mean, Arsinoe was like, Cleo, you can jump that old man's bones, but I'm out of here. And oh yeah, I'm gonna throw my diadem in the ring for Queen 2 while I'm at it. Like, this girl didn't play. Little girl did not play. So if the Liberators won the war, they have a pliable rival queen backed by Rome. Right there. Just right there. Right there. Right there. And she would be far more useful than Cleopatra. I mean, I'm also going to say that being in Ephesus, right, fully immersed in this now Greco-Roman culture, I think I don't know. Maybe Arsinoe would be just as spunky because, like, she's pretty spunky now. But, like, if they put her there in the first place, I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know what the long-term goal on that would have been, but whatever. Personally, if I were her, like, fuck it, kick it in this beautiful temple where women run everything. Why do I need a whole, like, why do I want the drama?
Well, because she was raised with prestige and she believed that she was entitled.
I know, that's why we are.
Comes down to entitlement.
I'm like, us mere peasants, but whatever. But also, like, I think we're just smarter. Like, okay, we know how this world be at this point. We know how it's going to end for both of them. But, like, or you're a head priestess and you run shit.
Yeah,
I
would rather stay in Ephesus. Like, I want to go to Ephesus now. Can we create
you
Ephesus?
Have power. We talked about this with Saint Nick. You have power.
Yeah,
political power, not just like like you can. And you're the descendants of kings and queens. Like, girl, she would have been just as rich, just as powerful without all the bullshit.
Exactly.
But whatever. So then, you got Serapion may have been hedging his bets, and Cleopatra paid the price, right?
Mhm.
In Alexandria, the queen was, of course, furious, but also terrified. She understood immediately what this looked like. She would spend years trying to convince Roman leaders that the fleet had been stolen from her, not given. But in 43 BCE, perception mattered more than truth. Right?
Yeah.
So while Serapion was giving Cassius her ships, just, here you go. Alanus was giving him something even more dangerous. Alanus was a Roman commander stationed in Egypt, overseeing the legions Julius Caesar had left behind after the Alexandrian War, as we had just discussed a minute ago. These troops were not just soldiers, though. They were also Cleopatra's insurance policy, the physical proof that Rome backed her throne. So we forgot to mention that, and just
Yeah.
throwing that out there. It's not just like, oh, they were her bodyguard. It's also like, oh, Rome supports you. If Rome literally says, no, we don't. This is them literally saying Rome, no, does not support you.
You no longer have a foundation for your throne.
Yeah. So no navy, no army, middle fingers all around. And in 43 BCE, the Caesarian general Dolabella ordered Alanus. Oh, wait, hold on. Okay. So earlier we had mentioned that Cleopatra had sent those troops north, right? And this, we forgot to mention this. It wasn't just, she sent them north, right? She sent them to Dolabella. She sent them to Bella, and Bella ordered Alanus to then keep going and confront Cassius, right? So she's like, I don't know what's going on there. Meet up with this Bella dude and see what we can do to help. And Bella's like, thank God. Could you go over there and go fuck those guys up?
Say no more. Say less.
Right. The plan was pretty straightforward. Reinforce Syria, stop the liberators, right? Alanus never made it. As his column passed through Palestine, Cassius intercepted him. Alanus was outnumbered, and he had a choice. Fight and die, or surrender and survive. I mean, and yes, I guess I could get it. That's his story.
Yeah.
Right. And he surrendered just like that. He was a very submissive bottom. He was a good boy.
Oh, who's a good boy?
And 4 legions changed sides without a battle. They were just like, hey, we've worked for you now. So, all that being said,
terrible.
This was devastating. In a single moment, Cleo had lost every Roman soldier stationed in her kingdom. Egypt was now undefended, and worse, exposed as a client state whose queen could not control the troops meant to protect her. So no navy, no army. And Rome noticed. To Antony and Octavian, it looked like, at best, incompetency. Which I don't think is fair, but whatever.
No.
Or at worst, duplicity. To Cassius, it confirmed that Egypt was vulnerable. To everyone watching, Cleopatra appeared to be playing both sides, potentially, and losing control of her own kingdom. Because women. It's like, she's like, oh God, one boob's telling me to do this, and the other boob is telling me to do that, and I don't know what to listen to. Also, I'm tired and cranky, and I want chocolate. It must be that time of the month.
That damn
That's not what
moon
really
blood.
happened
That damn moon blood.
in these cities. So to make it all more dangerous, once again, Cleopatra was left without a Roman military, and she found, because she's been here before, and she found that she had lost her army without losing a single battle.
Then, just to fuck with everyone, the Nile decided it was going to take a sabbatical. In Egypt, this was not just an economic disaster, it was an existential one. Like, this was their whole thing. The Nile was their brand and their whole identity. Like, without it, they were royally screwed. That year, the river stayed low. The fields remained dry. The land hardened under the sun, and as a result, that meant crops failed across the countryside. By the time harvest should have come, there was nothing to reap. Modern science has traced one possible cause to a volcanic eruption half a world away. The disaster led to a massive volcanic eruption in Alaska, the Okmok, which threw sulfur into the stratosphere and disrupted global climate patterns. The African monsoon failed. The Ethiopian highlands received no rain. Without those rains, the Nile floods never came. Fields baked, crops failed, grain stores emptied. Cleopatra had no such explanation, though. All she saw was hunger. Her people were starving.
And you know what's wild? Like, this isn't even the first time this happens in Egypt, right? The last time Egypt got royally screwed, right, which kind of led to this period of like 1,000 years. Like, there was an eruption. First of all, you've got the Bronze Age collapse, right?
Yeah.
And that was when, I don't remember the volcano in Iceland, what the exact name of it is. But I do know, randomly, fun fact, that there were some Christians that believe that's where Judas is being tortured. Which was really random. But
We're
there
going
you
to
go.
have to dive into that because I need to know so much fucking more than
I
that.
know.
But not today.
Not today.
Stick a
But the
pin
point
in it.
is that volcano historically has fucked shit up for people in the past, right? I feel like that's a big one in history. That and like crack, like all the different ones over in like Indonesia and all that. Those
Yeah.
tend to really fuck shit up too. But yeah, so when that happened, back in the Bronze Age collapsed, it didn't just fuck with Egypt. It fucked with like everyone. The rains were not happening. It was colder than normal, right? So, and I mean, that was a really big, large scale disaster, but like, I mean, so this one maybe wasn't quite as bad as causing a whole collapse of an entire world like it did back then, but it was enough, right? And if you interrupt, it just shows you how interconnected our planet is. And it's something that happens in Iceland or Indonesia, or in this case, Alaska,
Can
can
affect Egypt.
absolutely connect all the way to Egypt.
Yep.
And wild. It's just wild.
No, it's crazy. And realistically, the entire world is just a series of rings that are all interconnected. And if you really, really want to believe that everything happens in isolation, I feel sorry for you. But by harvest season, famine gripped Egypt. Farmers abandoned the countryside and flooded into Alexandria, desperate for food. Bread prices soared. Disease followed hunger, spreading through overcrowded streets. To the Egyptian people, this was not merely misfortune, it was divine judgment. The pharaoh was meant to uphold cosmic balance. The gods, it seemed, were displeased. Cleopatra responded not as a ceremonial monarch, but as an emergency administrator. She opened royal grain reserves. She issued harsh decrees, making it a capital crime to sell grain outside of Alexandria. She sacrificed the countryside to keep the capital from erupting into revolt. At the same time, she intensified her public identification with Isis, performing rituals meant to demonstrate that she still mediated between the gods and the people. At the same time, she embraced ritual. She appeared as Isis, goddess of fertility, performing public rites to command the river. As we discussed last time, this was not superstition, it was governance. In Egypt, legitimacy was cosmic. If the gods turned against her, no army could save her.
Well, that's good because she ain't got no army.
No, she doesn't.
Mm.
By the end of 43 BCE, Cleopatra had lost almost everything that made a ruler safe. Her fleet had been handed to Cassius by a disloyal governor. Her legions had been surrendered by a Roman general she trusted. Her countryside was starving. Her capital was barely fed. Rome viewed her with suspicion from every angle. And yet, she was still queen. Cleopatra survived 43 BCE not through force, but through narrative control. To Caesar's heirs, she claimed betrayal and disaster. To his killers, she claimed famine and plague. She offered neither side enough to condemn her outright. Now, the year changes. The year turned, but nothing resolved. When 42 BCE began, Cleopatra was still Queen of Egypt, but only just. She ruled a kingdom that had survived the worst year of her reign by inches, not strength. The civil war that had nearly swallowed Egypt had not ended. It had merely shifted north and concentrated its violence in Greece. Rome's giants were finally moving towards each other. For Cleopatra, this mattered more than any battle fought on Egyptian soil. The outcome of the war would decide not only who ruled Rome, but whether Egypt would continue to exist as a client kingdom or be absorbed, stripped, and reorganized by the victor. She had endured 43 BCE by refusing to choose a side. But by the time that 42 BCE rolled around, that luxury was evaporating.
As the year opened, Cassius and Brutus were no longer threatening Egypt directly, which I think she's like, thank God. But thank gods. But their armies had marched west towards Macedonia, which I feel like is kind of ironic. I find that interesting, like that where her ancestors came from is where the decision for what's going to happen with her kingdom is going, and the Roman Empire is going down. Just find that kind of.
All I can say is roots and ripples.
Which we have to do like an Alexander miniseries at some point. And I say miniseries because, like I'm not necessarily looking to get in the weeds with the culture and stuff as much with that one, but he is fascinating. And, I don't know, like everyone views him as like this golden guy. He was ruthless. He was a rat bastard. He could be a real bastard. No, for real, girl.
Oh, I believe it. I believe it.
Like, he just did shit that was like not what you do, Like, one taste of that is when he went, one of the first battles he fought and won, right? As he did his expansion thing, was the battle in Corinth. And like the thing done is you don't enslave Greeks, right?
Indeed.
Well, he did. He enslaved all of them. So we're not even talking about Crucifixion Beach. So we'll have to another story for another day. But yeah, just that was like, the area her family came from. So back to Rome. Their armies had marched west towards Macedonia, preparing for a decisive confrontation with the triumvirs. Alexandria was safe for the moment, but Cleopatra understood the danger had not passed. it only changed shape. She now ruled in Egypt without meaningful military defenses. The fleet was gone. The legions were gone. Her governors had proven unreliable because men ain't shit. And the Nile had failed. The Nile, why? Why Nile? Like, oh,
A
like,
series of unfortunate events.
yeah. And famine still stalked the countryside because food still ain't happening, and disease had not yet burned itself out. Egypt remained rich in theory once they get through this, but fragile in practice, right?
Mhm.
The while, Rome was watching because they're voyeurs, and
Indeed.
Antony and Octavian were assembling their forces. They were counting allies. They were taking notes. And Cleopatra knew this because she had become a problem they could not ignore. From the Roman perspective, Cleopatra's position looked deeply uncomfortable. She had once been Caesar's closest foreign ally. She was the mother of his son, and yet in the year following his murder, Egyptian ships had fought for Cassius, and Egyptian legions had surrendered to him without any resistance, apparently. The explanations, betrayal, famine, plague, were plausible, but they also thought that they were convenient. Cleopatra understood that she could not, or they really are, that is what's going on. You know, maybe it's not all just some underhanded subterfuge shit. Like, people starving, people defected. It ain't cool, yo. And men suck. Just saying.
Just saying.
Cleopatra, though, understood that she could not defend herself openly without an army, and she could not afford to offend either faction before the war's outcome was clear. So, and again, what choice did she really have? Even if she wanted to get involved, with what army? Like, they're all like, oh, this is all calculated. Yes, but also, even if she wanted to get involved, how? How is she doing it?
How would she do it? It's honestly okay. Like, just from the outside looking in and kind of trying to put myself in her shoes. The fatal flaw here was not raising an Egyptian army herself and depending
I,
on Rome to have it.
right. That's my thought too. This is not the time of standing armies typically, though. Rome was kind of, even Rome at this time really didn't have that. It was more of a like call to arms kind of thing. The thing is that they had been in civil wars for so damn long that was starting to change it, right? Because it's like, oh, people are just in the fucking military forever, so you might as well just, it's not even like you might as well keep them there. It's just they fight. They've been living their whole lives fighting. Every time they try to go home, there's a new civil
something
war.
Else. Yeah. No, there's
versus
something
like
else
a
going
true,
on.
Right. Versus like a true, like, hey, this is my job. And even in peacetime, there's a military. Like, that's not happening yet.
It's just like, from my point of view, and obviously this is a very modern point of view, but if you have a neighbor that is constantly that thinks of you as a client state, they literally do not believe that you are fully sovereign, that you are beholden unto them, and they are constantly in turmoil. Having a standing army, like, regardless of whether it was done, would be one of my first priorities, especially if I had the breadbasket to be able to feed said standing army.
I would say the only thing in her defense there is how you keep that, how the breadbasket works, right? And this, to be fair, would be a thing, right? Right up until modern times, right? With So Rome at one point will have its standing army once it has Egypt, right? Egyptians aren't expected to fight. They're expected to do what they've always done, which is, work the fields and with the seasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cleopatra only has Egypt at this point, right? And so even if you wanted a standing army, if you want to feed your people, you have to let them go home.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that means you really can't have one, not in that capacity. They're, because like a standing army implies that is their job. They do it year round. You can't have men. You have to have every man in the fields. You have to. I'm not saying that women couldn't do it. It's more that it's just about the logistics of just, you need to have every person. If you take the men away from the fields, you only have like half the population working fields.
Oh,
And
absolutely. And I'm not
so
denying that.
no, and like I get it. I mean, and also you have to feed that army. So even if they could have do it, the problem was with the Nile doing its thing.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feed the standing army?
With the Nile in a famine, with the Nile not flooding, obviously that is going to be a logistical nightmare. Just with the turmoil that she has, that she has seen, having her farmers trained as soldiers, having her people that are working the fields, one, they're already doing labor that is incredibly intensive, because realistically, that's hard work. So they're already strong people.
I just think that she was handed a bag of dicks when she came into it, period. Right?
Fully agree.
Because like she had to figure out all the administrative bullshit, all the years of bullshit of civil wars and incompetent rulers. And she was already trying. It's like, which problem do I tackle first? No matter what she chose, it would have been wrong. Right? Yeah. She chose to do the army thing, but then didn't do all the administrative stuff or like the image stuff. Then, right, we would be talking about how she failed in that. I just think there was too many problems, too many fires, and not enough water to put it out.
Yeah.
And we go like, oh, she should, not us, but like in general, people like, oh, she could have done this better. Maybe if she had done, like, I think that no matter what, she was fucked. That's dead ass.
Hindsight
she
is
made the best of a really shitty situation.
There's
and
only so much that she could have done. Realistically, and there's only so much that she could do.
Right. And that's why when it's like, oh, she was strategically on the sidelines. Yes, maybe. But also, like, what the fuck is she going to do? Even if she amassed that, because we know she can do it. We know she can do it under, when it wasn't in famine, right? And she was all exiled and shit in a way worse position. Damn right she fucking recruited everybody and their goddamn mom and kicked ass. But, like, that was happening here, And even if she did, right? Fuck, my legions left. The people who are paid so that my people, that's the thing, like men ain't shit. But one benefit I would say to having those Roman legions on constant standby, that is their job. They are militarily trained. And that goes with engineering. It's not just like, oh, I'm physically strong. It's combat. It's engineering. The most Romans, like soldiers, were engineers. Like, they knew how to build shit quickly and ingenuity, like how to approach a problem and get around it. So
they were problem solvers. That's
right. So that was their thing. Not no shade. And with that being said, like that allows your farmers to work the fields, right? Mm-hmm. So that was a big fuck off moment, right? And that's the other thing is like she did send like Bella, my dude. Why didn't you say shit? You know what I'm saying? Like she sent them and they made it to him. Like clearly she did what she was supposed to. And rather than blame the guy who defected, they're gonna blame her.
Well, of course.
She wasn't even the last person they talked to.
Of course.
And like Bella could be like, no, she did send them my way. I spoke to them. They were here. She did what she was supposed to as a leader. And like, again, it's not hard to be like, okay, like this is their same logic, like that she's a woman. And it's like, right. And that's why they defected. You're saying she was incompetent, but no, you've instilled these dudes into thinking that women ain't shit. So I think either way, even if she had taken the time to assemble a new force now, right? Well, first of all, how's she even going to get them to Greece?
No, that's
She got no baby.
absolutely fair. That's
So you
absolutely
gonna walk
fair.
them over? By the time they get up there, the shit's gonna be over.
Oh
You
no,
know?
no. And I wouldn't. Here's the thing. I
Not
would
you. It's just
never.
them.
No, I got you. I would never actually have her like really insert herself into this.
Oh
It's
no.
more of a defense thing rather
Yeah.
than a offense thing.
Oh, and I agree with you. And I think she would have if the Nile was working.
True.
If someone hadn't turned off the goddamn water. But yeah. And the thing is that at the end of the day, with this whole, it's more about them. Like, well, you could have done more. Like, how? Oh, that's awfully convenient. Come on over. Look at my starving babies. Like, fuck off.
Come over. Look
and
at my starving
and
babies.
y'all know about the name. You were they were in your war. They fought in this bullshit.
Yep.
You know that. You know that they done fucked off. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing you got on me is like that you think I could be like lying about is the what? Famine and plague? Oh yes. I've convinced every single person in my country to lie about it.
For what? For why?
Right. Well, just to provide some excuse. Bullshit. It's like the point is just like it's not convenient excuse. It was convenient. I don't think it was convenient. I think it was happening. And it's not convenient when your people are starving and dying.
No, because
and you're trying to
blame you.
How convenient was any of this for her? It wasn't. What would have been convenient is not losing her army, to have her people fed and be able to tell both y'all to fuck off if she wanted to. But she 100%. Can't. The only thing she can do, and I don't think it's strategy so much as it was the only thing she could do, and it was smart to not, with no resources, pick a side and piss one of them off. So no, it's not convenient. It's just like, what else are you going to do? That's stupid. That's just stupid. Like, who does that? So it's this idea that she was manipulating and scheming, and it's not. She was smart with what very little resources she had going for her. She is, I will give her that. She makes the most out of a shitty situation. So that's where we're going with that. Mm-hmm. So that little tirade out of the way. Messages went out, but were carefully worded. There were no grand gestures because you can't afford it. No public declarations because you can't afford that. Not financially so much, but Cleopatra positioned herself as indispensable because you don't want them thinking too poorly of you, but wounded. A queen struggling to hold together the Eastern Mediterranean's most important grain supply under impossible circumstances, because that's what was happening. Anyway.
Yep. And
she was notably not asking for forgiveness. Rather, what she asked for was time. Like, because why do I don't owe you shit. Oh, you want an apology? For what? The Nile? Like, I had control over that? Girl,
why? Girl, why?
No, she's like, please forgive me. No. And of course the Romans go, oh, you didn't even ask for forgiveness? Like, for what? For what?
What do I need to be forgiven for? What would you have
done? What would you have done differently, Rome?
All Rome knows how to do is consume.
Right. I was like, that's all they would have done, is they would have made the situation worse, but whatever.
Oh, absolutely.
Inside Egypt, the crisis had not ended with the turning year. The Nile's failure had disrupted more than a single harvest. Rural displacement continued. Alexandria remained swollen with refugees, and grain distribution was still tightly controlled because there's no food. Royal reserves were depleted, and the rebuilding them would now take years. So, Cleopatra remained highly visible. She continued public rituals, presenting herself as Isis, the guarantor of fertility, order, and continuity. This was not a retreat into religion, though. It was, to a degree, political theater with existential stakes. I don't want to say it's political theater all the way, right?
No.
Okay, but we discussed how, like, it's our modern lens, right? Politics and religion were one and the same then. So yes, it was political theater, but like that doesn't mean she didn't believe in it any less, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, if the people lost their faith in this cosmic legacy, no Roman decision would matter. Egypt would implode on its own, as we saw with her daddy. Don't piss them off. At the same time, she quietly rebuilt administration where she could. Taxes were reassessed, trade routes were monitored, ports secured as best as possible without a navy, which is impressive. Egypt was not strong, but it was functioning. And that too was survival.
As spring approached, news from Greece grew more urgent. Brutus and Cassius were fortifying their positions. Antony and Octavian were advancing. Everyone knew the confrontation would be decisive. There would be no compromise, no third way. One side would win, the other side would be destroyed. Cleopatra understood the implication immediately. Once the war ended, neutrality would no longer protect her. The victor would audit every ally, every shipment, every silence. Egypt's actions in 43 BCE, real or perceived, would be judged by the winners. If the liberators won, Cleopatra would face men who despised monarchs and distrusted her lineage. If the triumvirs won, she would have to answer for every ship and soldier that had slipped into Cassius's hands. Either way, the reckoning was coming. By mid-42 BCE, Cleopatra stood at the edge of a future she could not yet see. She had survived famine, betrayal, and a near invasion. She had preserved Egypt when logic said it should have fallen. But survival was no longer enough. The next phase would demand alignment. Not yet, but soon. For now, Cleopatra waited in Alexandria, listening for news from Greece, knowing that the outcome of battles fought hundreds of miles away would determine whether she remained queen or became Rome's next conquest.
That's the secret for her rocking body, by the way. You know, anxiety. That's the amount of stress, girl. Like,
lots of anxiety.
Look, there's like two types of people. I'm not saying only because I'm sure whatever. I'm not looking to offend nobody, but I feel like there's two types of people when stress hits, right? There's people like me who eat their feelings. And then there's people who are so stressed that they can't even eat. It's not healthy. Yeah. It's not good. But
we don't like to be on either side of that. We like to sit right in the middle. Eat healthy. Be in the middle.
He's like, you know what? Yeah, let the peasants have some food. I'm not even hungry right now. I got too much going on.
Cleopatra did not go to war in 42 BCE. She could not. Egypt entered the year wounded, stripped, and dangerously exposed. The famine had not magically ended with the calendar. Grain reserves were thin, the countryside was still destabilized. Alexandria was crowded with the displaced and the desperate. And for the first time, since she had reclaimed her throne, Cleopatra ruled without an army that she could trust or a fleet she could command. She was caught between a rock and a hard place, despite what later Roman sources would claim, though. This wasn't cowardice. It was just the reality of the situation. Cleopatra understood that a single misstep now, one overt shipment of grain, one public declaration of loyalty, could be interpreted as treason by the wrong side and used as justification for invasion the moment the civil war ended. So she stayed in Alexandria, and she watched Rome march towards its reckoning. By early 42 BCE, the Roman Civil War had narrowed to its final form. There were no more alliances to forge, no more provinces to strip. Brutus and Cassius controlled the eastern legions and the wealth that they had extracted from Asia Minor and the Levant. Antony and Octavian controlled Italy, the western provinces, and Caesar's veterans. Everyone knew where it would end: Macedonia. Coincidentally, home of her dynasty's founders. The plains near Philippi were wide, open, and ideal for the kind of massive, decisive confrontation both sides wanted. Whoever won would not merely defeat their enemies. They would inherit the Roman world. And looming behind that calculation was Egypt. Both factions understood that Egypt's grain would be essential after the war. Armies could win battles, but grain won empires. Cleopatra's silence was therefore not reassuring. It was suspicious.
And I mean, I love that. They're like you said, they're like, consume, consume. It's like, well, after the war, we're going to need their grain. And she's like, I already told you I don't have it. Oh my God. Where are you going to consume? You know, honestly, she's like, come on over. You know what? Come on over. I'll set you up dinner.
Oh
There ain't
no.
a whole plate of air.
A whole plate of nothing. No, you say come over and all of a sudden all I can see is the meme. Come over. Where are we going? Around. It's a surprise. Just oh, that's all I can see.
My brain went a lot darker when you said, come over. Come. And I'm like, oh.
No, my daughter has been blowing me up with that meme or just sending me voice notes saying it because she's hilarious.
And so, Cleopatra spent 42 BCE doing something she excelled at: appearing passive while thinking aggressively. Because she doesn't, I will say that, she does not just sit around, right? She maintained official distance from both camps. No triumphant declarations and no visible favoritism. Messages were phrased carefully, framed around the disaster recovery, all the stuff we've covered, blah, 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 blah. So to the liberators, the story was different but consistent. Cassius and Brutus heard about the plague, failed harvest, and in Egypt is simply incapable of meeting their demands. Which was all true. And from the triumvir's perspective, Cleopatra's explanations were plausible, but they didn't like hearing it. It's like those friends, like, you know, like when you're like legit sick and you can't go out, and like they're like, you know, like, oh, I mean, I guess, but maybe you just didn't want to hang out. You could just say you don't want to hang out.
Yeah.
Like, nope, I literally have the flu. Thanks.
It's like, yes, it actually feels like glass in my throat, but, you know, appreciate you.
Right. I mean, in real time, like Courtney here, she was sick, you know, and I did not do that to her. I legit believe it. There's a whole flu epidemic going around, guys. And I myself had a few weeks ago had something similar with that. So I'm like, even if she was, that's not my business. It's not my problem. But the point is that Rome's doing that thing, though. We can't stand that. That's gross. Ugh. Because, you know, Antony especially knew Egypt too well to believe it truly helpless. I guess he thought, well, I'm sure you have some food. You can't send that over. Like,
yuck.
Well, and the thing is Egypt had always found a way to feed Rome when Rome needed feeding. They're like milkies.
Gross.
Right. That could not or would not do so now raised uncomfortable questions. And then we have Octavian, who was less sentimental. Right. To him, Cleopatra was a variable that had once belonged to Caesar and might still represent a threat. Also, Caesarion existed.
Yeah.
That fact alone mattered, right? Egypt's ambiguous behavior in 43 BC could be forgiven or remembered. Decision would depend on who won. And, Cleopatra was not blindly waiting. She understood the possible futures with brutal clarity. If Brutus and Cassius won, Egypt faced Republican hostility and zero tolerance for Caesar's bloodline. Poor Caesarion, you're going to find out no one likes the poor kid.
Just because of who his daddy is and who his mama is. That
Yeah.
poor baby.
Well, in the case of the Liberators, they done stabbed his dad. They're not going to want an heir floating around,
No.
right? That was their whole thing. They didn't want kings. That's why he stabbed him, apparently, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cleopatra herself might be replaced by a more competent ruler, perhaps even her sister Arsinoe, that, the one that's just hanging there. And then, in fact, Antony and Octavian won, Egypt faced suspicion, but also opportunity. Now, that being said, Octavian don't like this kid neither, for a whole different reason. Because he is Caesar's biological son.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe has a better claim if the right person rolls around.
Potentially.
Either way. And you could even argue Antony, but we'll see what goes on with that. But with that being said, Antony in particular had governed the East before. He understood client kingdoms, he understood queens, and he would demand accountability. Cleopatra knew that once the war had ended, explanations would no longer suffice. She would have to appear valuable, loyal, and indispensable, while distracting herself from the betrayals that had nearly destroyed her. In 42 BCE, she could not yet act, but she would and could prepare.
As summer turned to autumn, reports from Greece became constant. Both sides entrenched, supply lines stretched, morale fluctuated. The armies waited, staring at each other across the Macedonian plain and prepared to decide the fate of the Republic in a matter of days. Cleopatra followed these developments obsessively. She understood that the outcome would determine not only Rome's future, but Egypt's. The moment the war ended, the victor would turn south, and she intended to be ready. By the time the armies finally moved towards Philippi, Cleopatra had done all she could without choosing. She had preserved Egypt through famine. She had kept Alexandria from exploding. She had avoided open condemnation by either side. She had survived suspicion, betrayal, and silence. Now the war would speak. And when it did, Cleopatra would no longer be able to wait. The world was about to be decided on a distant battlefield, and when the dust settled, Egypt's queen would have to step forward and make herself impossible to ignore. The plain near Philippi was wide, flat, and mercilessly open. Exactly the kind of ground Rome chose when it wanted history to end decisively. Two armies faced one another, each tens of thousands strong. On one side stood Marcus Antonius and Octavian, heirs to Caesar's name and the beneficiaries of his murdered legacy. On the other side stood Marcus Junius Brutus and Gaius Cassius Longinus, men who believed sincerely that they had killed a tyrant to save a republic already too weak to survive them. Both sides knew that there would be no retreat. This was not a civil war anymore. It was a reckoning. Cleopatra, of course, was nowhere near Philippi, but she would have followed the events of the war as it unfolded as closely as any general actually there. Messengers arrived daily in the ships from the Aegean, brought rumors before they brought goods. Alexandria buzzed with speculation. Who was winning? Who had the advantage? Whose gods were speaking louder? Cleopatra, however, did not speculate aloud. She understood something that the Roman commanders did not. The first reports were always wrong. Victory was rarely clean, and defeat was rarely immediate. She waited for patterns, not proclamations. In the meantime, she did nothing visible. Egypt did not march, nor did it declare support for any side. Instead, she would wait and watch how the events would unfold.
As we discussed a few episodes ago, back when we were talking about Marky Boy, when the fighting began in early October, it did not unfold as either side expected. Antony struck first on the southern flank. His forces smashed into Cassius's troops with brutal efficiency. Cassius' lines buckled, his camp was overrun, dust and confusion swallowed the battlefield, obscuring everything beyond a few yards. Cassius believed the war was lost. He could not see Brutus. He could not see his own forces regrouping. So he made a decision that would echo through history, and also the choice that most Roman men did. Just if you're sensitive to this kind of thing, heads up. I mean, we talk
Trigger
about
warning, death.
And suicide, you know. So Cassius ordered his freedman Pindarus to kill him. So he's gone. Rome lost one of its sharpest minds, not to defeat, but misinterpretation, which is, I guess, that I don't like him, but I guess you could say that's some ironic tragedy. You know,
It is.
personally, I think the world's better off without men like that. You know, but
Fully
whatever.
agreed.
You know, whatever. Tragic for the Roman Republican old bastards, I guess. News of Cassius's death reached Egypt before the news of the battle's outcome. Surprisingly, however, to Cleopatra, this was actually alarming, not reassuring. Cassius had been her most immediate threat. He had extorted the east, he had hovered on Egypt's border, he had benefited directly from her stolen fleet and stolen legions. Although his death did not end the war, it would do much to destabilize it. Cleopatra understood immediately what this meant. Brutus was now alone, and desperate men fought differently. Weeks later, the armies met again, but this time there was no confusion. Brutus fought with discipline, but not with our favorite jock Antony's ferocity. And the ultimate square, Octavian's grim persistence. I mean, it's to a degree, it's two minds against one, right?
Yeah.
And like that, the benefit of having that second person is they kind of cover your flaws and vice versa. So you've got two people thinking on one side versus just one.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that can be a bad thing, you know, if you got too many cooks in the kitchen. But like in this case, Antony and Octavian, you know, spoiler alert, aren't going to always get along. But when they do, they are very good complements to each other.
Mm-hmm.
So the Liberators' forces broke under pressure they could not sustain. Good old logistics. Ultimately, their supply lines frayed, and with no and Cleopatra's like, ironic. With no food or resources, morale quickly collapsed. It's almost anyway. But they can't imagine how hard that was for her. So when Brutus realized the war was lost, you guessed it, he did what Roman aristocrats did when their world came crashing down around them and fell on his sword. It was a different time. It was a different time. This was
dramatic.
Their culture. Well, it's their culture. You know, it's like better to die. It's, you know, I don't want to make too much of a comparison with cultures that are completely unrelated, but I guess you could almost visualize, like, you know, during like the Japanese feudal era,
the samurai,
and like seppuku. Yeah. Because again, it's like the dishonor you would face if they captured you, right?
Yeah.
Better to go out on your own terms is their logic, I guess. I'm not agreeing with that. I'm just saying that's what their logic was. Okay.
Absolutely.
You know, so like for people who have seen this unfortunately unfold in their own lives, this is not me agreeing with that. I'm just saying this is how they viewed it.
Mhm.
And we're not ancient Romans, so. But when confirmation reached Cleopatra, there was, and spoiler alert, there's going to be more of this. There was no celebration, only clarity. Antony and Octavian were now masters of the Roman world. Caesar's killers were dead, and the civil war that had frozen Egypt in place was over. And now Rome would remember.
Victors do not merely win wars. They explain them by their right for surviving. After Philippi, Antony and Octavian moved quickly to control the narrative of what had happened and who had stood where while it happened. The enemies were obvious. Brutus and Cassius were traitors, tyrants in disguise, hypocrites who had cloaked ambition in philosophy. But in this cutthroat world of ancient world politics, friends were perhaps less obvious. Her neutrality in retrospect looked suspicious. Egypt's behavior in 43 and 42 BCE was reopened like an old wound. From Rome's perspective, the record was troubling. Cleopatra had failed to send aid when requested. Her fleet had supported Cassius, and her legions had defected to him. Her explanations, famine, plague, betrayal, were plausible, but perhaps just a bit convenient. To Octavian, this looked like duplicity. To Antony, it looked like chaos, but dangerous chaos. And hovering behind it all was Caesarion.
That poor kid.
I
They're
know.
like, there's that damn 5-year-old.
That damn child.
Like, could you imagine world leaders getting all hot and bothered about a 5-year-old? That's insane. Like, just, and
It's
this poor kid,
crazy.
he doesn't even realize it. He doesn't realize it. There's no way.
Well, he
Like,
has to
even
live
if
in ignorance. His mom has to protect him from that. It's like, how would you
even
feel
if
at
you
5 years old knowing these people want to kill you?
Well, like the thing is I'm sure like once you hit a certain age, that is absolutely happening, whether you're sheltered or not. Like you can't
Mhm.
help but hear it. But like at 5, I'm sure servants whisper, but he's 5. He's not even paying attention. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
just crazy to think like imagine just being a 5-year-old doing your 5-year-old thing, and like you know what it was like to be 5. Could you
Mhm.
imagine like the world talking about you and like whether you should exist or not? It's insane. Poor
It's
kid.
very insane. So, a living reminder that Julius Caesar had once imagined a future that did not include the Roman Republic, or perhaps even Rome itself. Cleopatra was no longer a distant queen managing a provincial crisis. She was a political problem that demanded resolution. She understood this immediately, and she would not wait to be summoned to prepare her case. Her strategy was precise: separate herself from the actions taken in her name. Serapion was framed as a traitor acting independently. Alinus was framed as a Roman officer who chose his own survival over loyalty. The famine was emphasized relentlessly, not as an excuse, but as evidence of incapacity. Egypt, she argued, had not chosen the liberators. Instead, Egypt had been dismantled by circumstances beyond its queen's control.
And to be fair, when we say framed, we don't mean like she's pinning blame on like we're framing them. It's like we're framing the situation. Like
You have
this
to
is what
explain it.
happened. Right. It's like so not like she's framing them like as in getting them in trouble for something they didn't do that she did. No, it's like framing the situation. Just
Yes.
throwing that out there.
So Rome did accept this explanation, partially. Cleopatra was not condemned. Not yet, anyway. But that being said, she was not to be trusted either. Antony, tasked with reorganizing the devastated and always strong willed eastern provinces, would now decide her fate. Egypt's usefulness was undeniable. Its queen's reliability was not. Cleopatra would be required to explain herself in person. The age of silence was over. So Cleopatra emerged from Philippi diminished, but alive. She may have lost her fleet. She had lost her legions. She had even dangerously lost Rome's unquestioning tolerance. But let's give her some credit. She had also outlived every Roman who had openly sought her destruction up to this point, and that mattered. Philippi did not end Cleopatra's story. Instead, it sharpened it. The war had chosen its victors. Now, Cleopatra would have to choose how to face them, and whether survival would require submission, seduction, or something far more dangerous. After Philippi, Rome did not celebrate for long. Antony and Octavian divided responsibilities with the efficiency of men who no longer needed to pretend unity. Octavian returned west to settle veterans and suppress unrest. Antony took the east, where money, memory, and unresolved loyalties still smoldered. The eastern provinces were, of course, after all the battles and being the hotspot of the Civil War, dangerously unstable. Cities that had paid Cassius now had to pay again. Client kings scrambled to prove loyalty retroactively. Everyone had a story explaining why they had helped the wrong side at the wrong time. And Egypt's story was the most delicate of them all.
Which to me is bullshit. Like, the thing is like, I'm not even upset with like Syria and Judea. Like, I'm not, first of all, because they ain't around to do all that no more. But like, the point just being, like, they had no choice. They were told to do it, and those people were occupying them. I mean, you always have a choice, but like, if it's the matter of your people's survival, right? Like, what are you really going to do? You either comply or they take it anyway. But, I mean, like, the thing is that Egypt, they were, like, they didn't even provide, what I'm saying? It's just, I don't know. It's the audacity of it all, but whatever. But to Rome's favorite good old boy, Antony, Cleopatra was not an abstraction. He had governed the Eastern Mediterranean before. He knew Egypt's value immediately. Its grain, its gold, its ships, its strategic position astride Rome's food supply. He also knew its queen's reputation. It didn't matter. Brilliant, dangerous, and deeply entangled with Julius Caesar's legacy. Apparently he forgot that time he fell in love with her on first sight when she was like 14, but whatever. Cleopatra could not be ignored, nor could she be trusted without explanation. Her actions during the war, whether intentional or not, had materially aided Cassius. That fleet from Cyprus, the legions, the refusal to commit openly to Caesar's heirs, none of this could simply be overlooked. Which, I mean, to be fair, if she openly accepted them as heirs, where's that leave her kid? What did they expect? I don't know.
What did they
and again, they're like, well, see, that's proof that she's not loyal to us. I'm like, oh my God. Anyway.
Men.
But, you know what? Fine. She never was. She was loyal to her own kid. You happy? God. Anyway. And then, if she did betray her own kid, that would also be ammunition, but whatever. Not at the end of the day, though, none of this could be overlooked. If Antony tolerated her without any accountability, he signaled weakness to every client ruler watching. Cleopatra knew the summons was coming before it arrived. The signals were unmistakable. Envoys from other client kingdoms returned anxious and overcompensating in their loyalty. Rumors had hardened to expectation. Antony was reviewing the East. Accounts were being settled, and when the messenger finally reached Alexandria, it was brief, but formal. Cleopatra was to appear before Marcus Antonius to answer charges of having aided the enemies of Caesar. There was no threat. There was no reassurance, only inevitability. Cleopatra, calculated and collective as ever, did not panic. Maybe inside, but not on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
And to be fair, she had lived too long with Roman power to misunderstand the moment. This was, and it's not even her first time.
No.
Like, this was not a trial in the legal sense, though. It was a test of utility, credibility, and perception. Antony did not need to be convinced she was innocent. He needed to be taught she was necessary. Cleopatra going to be the sexy teacher. And she understood whatever she said or failed to say would define Egypt's future for a generation. Silence had preserved her through war. Would not preserve her through peace. For the first time since 43 BCE, he would have to move. Cleopatra delayed her departure, though, not out of fear, but design. Messages were drafted and redrafted, advisors were consulted and dismissed, ships were prepared, but not launched. Alexandria watched and waited as its queen considered how one woman would present herself to the most powerful man in the Roman world. Again. But this time, she understood the stakes perfectly. This meeting would decide whether Egypt remained a kingdom or became a province. And so Cleopatra waited, you know, lateness makes the heart grow fonder,
Totally.
gathering herself for a moment when survival would no longer depend on silence but on performance. But unlike that time with Caesar, she would go, but on her terms.
If you like what you heard today, please give us a positive review on whatever platform you listen to this podcast on. It goes a long way for us to appease the algorithm gods and get this suggested to others just like you. The more that we can connect to our fellow history nerds, the more that we can build up a community and keep this show going.
Also, we have a Patreon where you can hang out with us and get exclusive content, like videos where we might try and make ancient recipes, talk about topics we couldn't fit into the main arcs of the podcast, and generally being batshit and dumpster fires. All for the price of a latte per month. Research materials and books cost a lot of money, and it takes a lot of time to create this show. So anything you provide could be a huge help.
We can't wait to see you again next week. And as always, thanks for listening.
Bye for now.
Bye, guys.